Hello, my friends. My name is Fred Fowler, and I want to welcome you to this new installment of Scrum in the Real World. I hold a professional Scrum Master Level 3 certification from Scrum.org. I've been doing Scrum for, almost 20 years now, and I know a lot about how the framework works. I've taught almost 300 people how to be Scrum Masters, and I've consulted with many companies, both big and small, all around the idea of helping them use the Scrum framework to create better products. And today we're going to be talking about a case that happened a few years ago. Basically, there was a product owner who came to me and said, "Fred, I've got this real problem with my developers." Really? What's that? Well, you see, I asked them to do things, and they follow the instructions, but they never really use their heads to figure out what I want. They always follow everything I say to the letter, and when it's not what I want, they blame me for not putting things in the spec properly. Well, what are you talking about? Well, for instance, we have an application that is used by our customer service people. Basically, it's a screen that lets them look up clients, and it's got two columns. One's client name, the other one is telephone number. And you can search for a client using their name, and then you can display their telephone number. So anyway, what I asked them to do was to add another column just like the telephone number, except put email address there. Because these days, the internet's everywhere, and people like to communicate via email rather than just playing phone tag with the telephone. So I put a specification to take this particular screen, add a third column to it. So the screen now has customer name, telephone number, and email address. And the developer says, "Okay, we'll do that." And then sometime later it says, "Okay, all done." And when I had to look at it, what they had done is they had taken this screen. There was the customer name, which was a column that was 20 characters wide. And then the next column was telephone number, which was 12 characters wide. In other words, 3 for area code, then a hyphen, then 3 for exchange, then a hyphen, then 4 for the number. Standard 10-digit US telephone number, 12 characters wide. But then they added another column for email that was also 12 characters wide. Basically, the display showed only part of the email addresses, because most email addresses are much bigger than just 12 characters. And the display cut off the last half of each email address, which basically made it unusable. And when I said, "This is not what I wanted," the developer said, "Well, this is what you asked for. You asked for a column just like the telephone number with email, and that's what we did. So it's not our fault, it's your fault. You didn't specify things properly. You didn't make a specification that was what you wanted." And so the product owner told me, and so ever since then I've had to spell out everything in complete detail. I have to tell them what I wanted, I have to tell them where on the screen I wanted it, I have to tell them how wide the things need to be. I just need to spell out everything down to the last detail. Otherwise, they won't do it properly and they'll blame me. There's got to be a better way. And so what I did was I said, well, let's have a look at what you're asking the developers to do. First of all, here's a question. Why do you want that email address? And the product owner says, well, it's because our customer service people need to be able to contact the clients either by telephone or by email. And right now they don't have any way of knowing what the email address is. And so I said, well, it sounds to me like what you need to specify is that there is a need to be filled. As a customer service provider, customer service staff member, they need to be able to contact the clients via email or by telephone so that they can keep in touch with the clients and follow up on outstanding concerns. Isn't that kind of what you're talking about? And the product owner says, yes, that's right, okay. So I said, okay, then here's what I think we ought to do. We ought to look at the product backlog and realize that the product backlog should not be a series of tasks for developers to do. The product backlog should be a number of needs for the developers to fill. It should be problems for the developers to solve. And so if you ask them to do a specific task, you're basically doing all the work for them, and there's plenty of opportunity for misunderstanding. But if you tell them what is needed and then let them figure out a way to fill that need, the results will be much better. Oh, really? Yes, you see, what I'm talking about is putting user stories in the product backlog. You see, the product backlog should be a list of the needs to be filled or the problems to be solved. And the user story form is a very useful way of specifying what a need is. A user story form is a way of describing very succinctly and accurately who needs something, what do they need, and why. Why do they need it? So the user story always has some person involved. In this case, it's the customer service people. As a customer service person. And then there's a need. I need to be able to contact customers using telephone or email or both. And then there's a reason, so that I can keep in touch with the clients, follow up with their concerns, and serve them better. Okay. So anyway, if that's what the need is, then you can take that and go talk with the developers and say, listen, developers, this is what's needed. We need to have telephone number and email address available for the customer service people so that they can use it to contact clients. And the developer is going to say, okay, all right, we understand that. Now, right now there's the screen. It's got two columns. It's got customer name and it's got telephone. But that telephone is just a set of numbers. It doesn't really have any function except it just displays numbers, and you have to cut and paste, or you have to copy them down and then dial the number. What we can do, we can use a feature of HTML5, the new standard of HTML, which allows us to turn that telephone number into a link, so that when you click the link, it will bring up your phone app and dial the number for you. What do you think of that? And the product says, wow, that's great. That would be wonderful. That way, the customer service people don't have to fiddle with, pencil and paper to write these numbers down. They can just click and go straight to the phone number. And the developers then say, yes, and you know what else? There's a syntax in HTML5 called mail to. We can take the email address and turn that into a link, so that when somebody clicks on that link, it'll pop up the email client with the to address already filled in. That way they just have to type in the subject and the body, send, and you're done. Wow, you can do that? That is so cool. Yeah, that's exactly what's needed. So that way the customer service people can keep in touch with the clients using telephone and or email, whichever is more convenient, and they can do it quickly, simply, and foolproof. Don't have to worry about wrong numbers and mistyping email addresses and things like that. So anyway, the product owner and the developers talk about that. The developers say, okay, that's what we can do. So let's figure out the tasks. Okay, you go and you figure out how to get the email address on the screen, and then you figure out how to turn it into a link, and then you do the testing of it, and then at the end of the sprint, we'll have it there to show. And then the product owner at the end of the sprint sees the screen, notices that there's a clickable link for the telephone number. He tries it, it works. There's a clickable link for the email address, tries that, it works. Hey, that's exactly what we need. So anyway, the takeaway from all this is that the product backlog should not be a list of tasks to do. It should be a list of problems to solve. You see, the product owner needs to figure out what would be valuable for the team what needs to be valuable for the team to fill, and then I'll leave it up to the team to figure out how to do it using the tools that they have at their command. And if you do it that way, then you end up with the best of all possible worlds. The product owner can focus on what the product owner does best, which is figuring out what's valuable. The developers can do what they do best, which is to figure out how to use the tools to deliver what's necessary. So, to make a long story short, the product backlog needs to have needs in it as opposed to tasks. And a good way to specify needs is to use the user story form. And after I did that education for the product owner, they were able to move forward. The results were much better, and in the end, they became much more effective. So, thanks for listening. That's the end of this story of Scrum in the real world. And I want to thank you very much for joining me. If you like this, please give it a like, a thumbs up button. If you want to, please share it with somebody you know. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the next videos that I do. And best of all, if you want, you can become a channel member. So anyway, again, I want to thank you very much and look forward to working with you as we explore Scrum in the real world. Best regards.